happy that you're here today. Such a beautiful day outside. Oh my goodness, after that rain, huh? So I'm really happy that you're here for our first Sunday. And how about if we unify ourselves by doing three M's together? Always a beautiful way to start any day. Om. 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 Okay, so the word that we've been meditating on, do you remember? Was the word unity. And the saboteur this time of unity is the word enmeshment. So remember that sometimes the saboteur, sometimes people tell me that they have a little hard time like wondering how is that a saboteur of this? And so with unity, unity has this quality to it where all of the pieces remain whole. It is a unity is made up of diversity. We focus so much on the word diversity that we forget to focus on unity. So the diversity is like so a puzzle has all these different pieces and they have all different colors on them because they're going to make one picture. So they're all part of the one picture, but they're all of these different pieces, and the pieces are whole in and of themselves, but they join together. They don't override another piece. They don't push another piece out of the way. They come together. They come together. They fit together, and they realize the importance of each and every one. Have you ever done a puzzle and then you lost the last piece? Where is that? Where did it go? You know, it's like you can't have that unity because somebody's gone. And when we practice the word unity, we also look to see who's here, you know? Where is that other piece? What is that other piece that we need that piece to be whole? Enmeshment is completely different. I think sometimes people don't like the word unity because they confuse it with the word enmeshment. Now, enmeshment doesn't really recognize the specialness of each piece in the puzzle. Enmeshment is sort of like we're all going to be the same. We're all going to dress alike. We're all going to walk alike. We're all going to think alike. We're all going to vote alike. We're all going to do everything the same exact way. And there's not going to be any diversity. No, even if you look different, you're going to do it this way. So enmeshment, the individuality, the independence, the beauty of individuality, the spice, you know how each spice in a recipe is individual and you don't want to lose it. You want each taste to be able to come through because each spice that you add to the recipe is important. We don't want it just to be this mess where you can't really taste anything. It's just, what is that? What is that? So enmeshment is where we really want everybody to be the same. And why do we have this even in our world when we think about the word unity? Enmeshment is when people get afraid that they won't be seen. Their individuality will be not liked or not accepted, or they're weird or they don't belong. So we begin to fear unity because those people don't talk like I do. Those people aren't like me. Well, no, they're cinnamon and you're nutmeg. Of course, they're not the same. You see, we have to have this diversity. But when we're afraid that we're not going to be seen or made special, then we're not as interested in individuality because we begin to be jealous of other people that we feel are being seen and we're not. So it causes a lot of conflict. So unity is a very special word because it recognizes the individual nature of the whole. So here I sit, and my heart and my lungs are very different from one another, but they work together. There's diversity in my body. All of our organs show us the diversity of the whole. When you see me all together, you don't think, oh, she has a liver, she has kidneys, she has a spleen, or maybe, you don't think about those things. You think about the whole, and you call me Jacqueline. But I am made up of very many parts. So unity is the respect for all of the diversity, the individuality, all of the pieces. When we're unified, we realize that we need the heart to do what it does. We don't need it to be jealous of the liver, because then it's not doing what it does at its very best, because it's got its eyes on the liver and trying to keep the liver held back so that it can be seen. It doesn't really work. Now we're not unified. Not at all. Now we want to be enmeshed with each other because we're afraid of not being seen. So enmeshment is one of these things that if we go for enmeshment over unity, it can be a dangerous thing. If you think on a political level in other countries where there are there's one person who makes all the decisions, a king, a dictator, a queen, and everybody has to act exactly the same way. Yeah. There's been times where people have to dress the same way. They have to do everything exactly the same way. There's not going to be any free thinking here. It's getting in the way. And when enmeshment really starts to take hold, we don't respect art. We can't have free thinking people making art. No. So artists are asked to leave the country, to stop speaking, or other serious things could happen to them. And these are artists of all type. They can be painters, of course. They can be dancers, singers, poets, writers. They become unwelcome in the world of enmeshment because they respect individuality. They respect their own individuality. They respect their own voice. And by respecting your own voice, you know the importance of being respected. And you know the only way for you to continue on with your own voice is to respect yourself, so that you remember to respect the individuality of others, which means disagree, of course, but not condemn them and disrespect them. We have to be a very advanced society to be unified. We bear the name, the United States, but we haven't lived up to that just yet. We're still very young in the overall rankings of how long countries have lived on the planet. We're not an old country. We're made up of people from all over the world, languages, cultures, colors, everything is represented here. And we haven't learned our recipe yet. We're still a recipe in the making. If you like to cook or bake, maybe you found something that you want to make your own recipe, and you have to go through a series of experiments with it. So it's not too much cinnamon, it's not too much nutmeg, it's not too much this or that, where you find this blending, this harmoniousness and deliciousness of the result. So we haven't yet quite managed our recipe. So we fight with one another. We disrespect one another. We're not the only country that does this, but since we're here, we might as well talk about ourselves so that we can be better for it. So that we realize that just because we disagree with another person doesn't mean that we have to default to hate. We don't. We can say, but they're dangerous, those thoughts. What are they saying? They should never say that. You don't have to take it in. You don't have to take in what other people are saying. You don't have to make it your own. That's the beauty of being an individual. You decide how you're going to be. You decide which words that you hear from other people remain for yourself. You decide how you're going to think. And when you're in charge of yourself and you're conscious of being in charge of yourself, you won't fear what other people are saying. Not as much. Because you know yourself. Because you respect yourself. Because you feel and think for yourself. Because you are responsible for the quality of your mind. You are responsible for the quality of your heart. You are responsible for the quality of your own joy. And when we take this responsibility of individuality very seriously, we become more interested in developing ourselves as we are. We don't want to change to please or even to displease. We want to change because we want to grow. We want to be deeper. We want to be the best plant that we can possibly be, not just the best plant in the garden. How can we measure the best plant? We want to be the best plant that we can be, each of us. And knowing that as we do that, that if everyone does that, we begin to respect individuality so much more. And we're not afraid of individuality, no matter which side you're on, the pink side or the turquoise side. You're not afraid of the other one, even though they're becoming strong and they're doing this or they're doing that. You're not going to be as afraid because you know that you will not be overtaken. You may have fear that other people are being overtaken, but they are individuals too. And they too have to learn to be completely responsible for the quality of their own mind, the quality of their own thoughts. And if we charge into them as an individual and say, no, I've been really thinking about this and I've come to this understanding and this is the way it has to be, you have to come this way. You have to forget about what you're thinking. Not good. But we can speak to other people in a loving way and say, this is my experience of the situation. This is how it makes me feel. And these are my thoughts. And this is how my family and I live. What do you think about that? Oh, you don't like it. Okay. 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 We don't have to convert one another. We can live in different pods and still be in the same puzzle. Really. We have to, in order to be individuals, we have to respect other individuals. I keep saying this to you, but it's very important to remember that. So sometimes in religion and politics, people gravitate towards enmeshment. We all have to do it this way. We all have to wear these clothes, or we all have to pray in the same way, or we all have to vote in the same way. We all have to do everything together. Don't think for yourself. There's no thinking this is the party or the country or this is the religion. Stop being a free thinker. Can be very dangerous. Enmeshment can. This word that is so underused. But it can be dangerous to all of us. We have to learn to think for ourselves. When it comes to the feelings of God, of spirituality, we have to think for ourselves, feel for ourselves. We must be individuals. If we just give in to a think tank, so to speak, that's filled with a particular way that you have to do it. And here are the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, something bad is going to happen to you, perhaps for as long as eternity. Enmeshment can be dangerous because it can be threatening. Unity is different. Unity keeps us from threatening one another to be individuals. It's different. So sometimes now we hear people say, I'm spiritual, not religious. Why do we say that? Because sometimes the old way of looking at religion is all about enmeshment. You must do it like this, or you're bad. You have to pray like this. You have to show up on this day. You have to do this. You have to get married in this particular way. You have to do this. You have to, and this is how you raise your family. And the next generation, the generation after that. And we secure that enmeshment, that thinking of enmeshment, by making sure that you teach the future generations to not think for themselves. No. Unity teaches us to be who we are, and we become an example. We're not threatening anyone. People who really are working for unity, they work on the purity of the individual. So in spirituality, whether it's religiously treated or not, spirituality is all about love. That's what it's about. Not in an emotional way. I don't even think of love as an emotion. I think of it as it's a force in the universe, and it moves through all things because it is all things. And it is our obligation to ourself to discover the qualities of love and to nurture them and to become deeper in love. Love loves individuals, uniqueness. When we try to feel love by being like everyone else and telling other people that they're stupid for what they think this is the right way, where is the love in that? We belong to this group. You people don't. And if you don't convert, if you don't come this way, something bad will happen to you, but not to us. Fear does not nurture unity. It does not nurture individuality. Fear nurtures enmeshment. Do not speak for yourself. Do not do things in your own way. Do not be one of those crazy artists. Mm-mm. Bad things happen to people who do things their own way. We need each person to be who they are. And as that happens, it also helps people who live in fear, people who think very low thoughts and do very low deeds out in the world. These people also have a form of enmeshment because they're filled with fear. They don't want to do it the way everybody else is doing it. So they do it in the same way. In other words, thinking bad thoughts towards other people, feeling that it's correct to be very, very bad. They too are made up of love. Hard to see that, but they too are made up of love. Because love is the force that permeates the entire universe. And the stars are individuals, the planets are individuals. We are individuals. We are all made up of love. And the people that I'm referring to as they have very low and bad thoughts are also made up of love, but they don't know it. Not yet. So instead, they want to feel like they're safe. So they defer to fear. Because when you can make people afraid of you, you have power. So sometimes, instead of love, We think that's too airy-fairy for us. Some people go to creating fear, fear-mongering. You see, that also creates enmeshment. Whether we're talking about religion or politics or low thinking, it's all about fear. Individuality is different. Individuality isn't afraid of being misunderstood. When we really focus on our individuality, we're not as afraid of, do they understand me? I think you can see that I'm a bit of an individual. I kind of like to speak in my own way. The kind of work that I do is certainly not the norm. So I say this to you because I'm not afraid of being misunderstood. I just haven't learned to really embrace it totally. I already know I'm misunderstood. That's okay. But I have to still work on it so it doesn't influence me. So I don't feel the need to become enmeshed with how I feel other people are being. So we all have a version of this that's inside of us. To be who we really naturally are. And to not let fear get inside of us, fear of being seen, fear of not being seen, fear of thinking differently, fear that we're all going to go to hell, whatever that really means to each person, right? By nurturing the heart, and I do this, I'm not really saying my physical heart, but when we nurture the heart of who we are, we all become more creative. Because we give ourselves permission to be who we really are, and we develop ourselves in our own way. We don't have to be the carbon copy of those that went before us, like our parents or our grandparents or our culture or whatever it happens to be. We have a right, and we feel that right inside of us to glow in the way that we want to glow, to love in the way that we want to love, which may be to paint, to write, to bake, to cook, to make gardens, whatever it may be. You feel yourself wanting to express the feeling of love that is inside of you. It's important to express love. But when you find yourself, I can't do it. I can't be creative anymore. No, I don't even want to do things. No, I want to even go in the kitchen and even experiment. No, it's just too overwhelming. My mind is too overwhelmed. And that happens. It happens. And it's a type of fear that we all suffer from. We all suffer from fear. It's not just fear of the boogeyman. It's fear of being weird. It's fear of being lonely. Fear of being misunderstood, shunned. That we'll lose out. And that keeps us trapped. It makes us immobile. We don't want to express our creativity. We think it's only for those who are blessed with being able to pick up a paintbrush and give us something on canvas. It's not true. It's not true at all. To learn to express ourselves to other people in a loving manner takes a great deal of discipline. To be an individual and to really express yourself, we do have to be disciplined inside. In other words, we have to be disciplined when we feel fear arising in us. We have to catch it before it overtakes us. So when we're in a conversation and the other person is really fierce in their beliefs and they're really wanting to agitate you and tell you that you're wrong and you need to be enmeshed with what I'm saying, that energy from them comes and it falls upon you, and you could feel it. It's like a weird kind of ouchy kind of tingle that's there. You can feel it. You can feel the other person's anger, their unhappiness with you. They're insisting that you're unknowledgeable, being polite. When you feel that, you have to be disciplined to go, ooh, no, no, this could hurt me. This can make me feel like I'm not valuable. That how I think isn't valuable. When somebody is shouting at us about our beliefs, shouting us down, we must learn to walk away. If we can learn to walk away with even people that we love, and not even as much as, we have to learn it too with people that we don't even know, much less have this love for them. We have to learn to not stand there and argue, and both voices are just yapping so loud that nobody can hear anything. And now both people are being really harmed by the desire by each person to make the other person be just like them. It won't work. It won't work. But through continuity of our thoughts, continuity of our words, continuity of our actions, we become rooted in our individuality. And it helps us to not feel so afraid that somebody can overtake us or over-influence us or tear us down, because we know that we're taking care of ourselves. We know that we are still thinking for ourselves. And when you think for yourself and you develop this discipline, then you don't feel the need to overpower other people, because we're all going to go to hell if you don't think like me. And we can see that everywhere you look. You must think like me or we're all going to hell. I don't think it's really that important that we all think exactly the same way. I think it's important that we all become individuals and respect individuality. And we come together not as like mush, that's enmeshment, is mush, but these fine, developed, colorful veggies on your plate. That is individuality. We don't need mush thinking, mush feeling. We have to help ourselves to not be afraid of individuality. That way, we're not afraid to be unified. We respect diversity because we respect our own self. We take care of ourselves, and where we feel fear inside of ourselves, like, I'm going to be overtaken by the way that these people are going and everything's going to be really, really bad. You see, you no longer are thinking for yourself. You're not even thinking about what you're thinking about. All you're thinking about is you're going to be overtaken. What do you have to offer yourself? Where are you? Because now we're nurturing our fears. We're not nurturing our ability to love, to be strong, to be an individual. As we work on lessening our fears, then we start to open the door and see how we really do think, how we really do feel. And we begin to help ourselves to live more respectfully within our own self. Some of you have heard me say this before. I learned this from the yogis. Swami Vivekananda says it so vividly, where he talks about guilt. He said that guilt is a word that means fear of being bad. Guilt means fear of being bad. So when we feel guilty, sometimes how guilt is presented is it makes you a good person. If you feel really guilty all the time, you're a good person. Oh yes, mother's guilt. What the heck is that? um, Guilt is not productive. The more we delve into it and we feel bad about ourselves, we give all of our attention to that we are bad. And the more that you feel like you're bad, the less likely that you're going to be able to cultivate the courage to be an individual thinker and speaker. You know in your heart if you've hurt someone. You don't have to punish yourself with being guilty. You have to redo that part of you. You have to help yourself to upgrade that part of you so that you're more aware of hurting another person. You know how it feels to be hurt. We know how that feels. So we can help ourselves to limit our ability to hurt another person by reducing our fear of being bad or of being wrong or of being shamed or of being humiliated. The more attention we give those things, the less likely we are to be strong enough to think as an individual. And we do not live in peaceful times anywhere on this planet. Anything can happen because there's so much fear. So I am speaking to you today in this way so that you can consider that fear is something that we have to work on lessening. People become powerful for sure by using fear as a weapon over other people. But we all become empowered when we cultivate love. When we stop thinking about love being wimpy and weak. No. It empowers individuality. It empowers creativity. It empowers true freedom. Fear will never be a friend to freedom. Freedom of how you feel, freedom as an individual, freedom in a country, freedom in any way that you want to look at it. Freedom and fear, they don't mix. So in order to be free thinking, in order to be free loving, in order to be a free intelligence, we have to continue to reduce fear that somebody is going to have an opinion, a bad opinion about us. Because they will. And you will have one of them. We return this fearfulness to one another. So because we live in these extraordinary times, because we do live in extraordinary times. They are truly upon us. I don't say that in a fearful way. We already know we do. And sometimes people feel like, well, we're so far into it, it's just going to have to we're just going to have to suffer some type of annihilation. Do we? Do we really have to give in to that? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Fear, like I said, makes people feel powerful. And they use it over other people so that they can feel powerful. But they are not empowered. Because if they were empowered, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't need to. Their influence, an empowered person has natural influence. What's there to be afraid of? Disagreement? And when we do that, we remember those individuals. We remember people who gave us art in the darkest of times. We remember them. We remember people who write about spirituality, knowing that they could be persecuted and their lives ended. We remember them. We don't remember the name of people who had so much power that they annihilated other people. And when we do, we think of them with disdain. Power will never be enough. The power of love, that's different. That's very different. So love is what we want to cultivate to remain free. So we live in a country called the United States of America. And of course, we're not quite united at all. But like I said, we don't have to look at ourselves with disdain because of that. We're just waking up to what that means. It takes time. One generation is not going to save us. Each generation has to protect what the other generation laid down and build upon it the good and let go of the bad so it has no power. Learn from our mistakes so that we can love one another because we're different from each other, because we're versatile, because we have diversity. It makes us blessed. It's not a curse. And when people fight and they say, no, we all have to be the same. And those people over there, they need to be annihilated. And those people over there, and those people don't have any rights. And we'll make sure that we make laws so that they can never shine. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of that, because then fear sets in, and so does enmeshment. No. We have to learn to be individuals in this country. I'm not speaking for our country or for any other countries, but I'm a member here. So from my perspective, as an individual, I value the diversity of people that are in my life. I feel very, very blessed that I get to sit with people in my workspace that are from every kind of walk of life you can imagine. And they all teach me a different way of doing things, a different way of loving, a different way of speaking, a different way of dealing with everyday crises. It's a different flavor, but it's all ice cream. It's versatility. And it's so beautiful. I feel so blessed to hear so many different ways of doing things that it's become part of me now. Now I want to try things in different ways. And, I want to feel things in different ways. Because why not? We have this blessing that we say that we're free people in this country, but we're not free like we can be. We still have to fight the darkness of fear, the fear of being diverse, the fear of individuals being free thinking, free speaking, free creators. We have to learn to respect our diversity and not just put everything into one person. Oh, they're the best in their field. We need to all do it that way. Oh, listen to that person speak. That's the only way to do things. Then we become followers. No freedom in a country of followers. And the only countries that are followers are ruled by fear. The best way to protect our own country is to not let the invasion of fear enter into our hearts. The fear to be an individual, the fear to speak up. We must speak up, speak out, and we must vow to ourselves not to harm other people because of our individuality. We have to take a vow to ourselves, not to something else, but to ourself, vow to ourself to really speak up, speak out in the most loving way possible and be empowered by it. And let it be. Let it be. Say what you need to say, do what you need to do with the empowerment of love, and let it be, so that others can feel it and decide for themselves if it feels right. This keeps us free. It keeps us free. It's hard to think like this because it was only a few hundred years ago when countries all over the world were being invaded by other countries. Their languages being ripped from them, their ways of being for centuries, for such a long period of time, taken away from them. And we are here as the aftermath of all of that. So we still live in this type of fear. It's like trauma. There has to be one person that leads us, one person that we have to follow at all times, and give up our individual ways of thinking. We have an opportunity. It's a great experiment to live in this country. It is a great experiment. And we're not even close to where we could be. Will be, I'll say it that way. We're not. Is that a bad thing? Would you say that to a toddler? Yeah, you're not even close to being an adult. No. We're toddlers. So what? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things the wrong way until we find that perfect recipe where we can all shine and not be afraid of one another. Not be afraid of one another. Not get torn into, I'm just going to tell everybody how bad they are. And we have that on both sides of all kinds of issues. You're bad. Well, not quite as bad as you are. No, you're very bad. No, you're really bad. Okay. We have to keep finding our humanity. We do have the freedom to be as spiritual as we want and to be that way out in the world. But do we really have that freedom? Because how many times do people fear to be out there in the world? I have that fear. It's not quite what it used to be, but I do have that fear. I don't just go out there and tell people this is what I do. Any person? No. I tell some people. Now I do that because, yeah, I've had people say some pretty bad things and I don't even want to deal with that. So, okay. But inside, I'm still free. I don't need to be right. I don't need to have somebody follow me. I don't need to have anybody mimic me, be like me. I am my own puzzle piece. And I respect other puzzle pieces because selfishly, I like to learn from everyone else. It makes me a better person if other people are who they really are and they're not angry and thinking that we should all be the same. Individuality. It's very precious. And it's something that we have to guard and take care of and nurture. Or we become fearful beings and feel like it's us against them. Us against them. Those are very dangerous words. It's not appropriate to be given the grace of being in this great experiment of a country. And it is, it's an experiment. It hasn't come to its full potential by any means. But each of us are a piece of that great experiment of learning to respect one another's individuality, learning to respect our differences, being really, really happy that we have diversity. Because you can't have unity unless you have diversity. Unity does not come from enmeshment. Unity and diversity They are from the same mother. They're siblings. And we have the diversity, for sure, but we don't have the respect of the diversity. Not yet. Not yet. But as we go through these difficult times, and as you well know, in less than a week, we have another opportunity as a country to respect diversity or not. To respect diversity or not. It's important that we're thinking about it, I feel, so that we're not afraid. We're not afraid to express ourselves. We're not afraid that someone's going to take our power away. It is interesting how we've seen in history, and there's certain countries right now who have one person who is so powerful that thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people will die because that one person thinks it's important that that happens. We must remember that that happens. There is not a respect of individuality, of human beings. Humanity is made up of human beings. Unity is made up of individuals. And it's much more difficult to live in a unified way because it takes great intelligence, great discernment, deep respect of individuality to live in a unified way. To live in a place where there's only one person who decides everything. And that includes to survive or not. You would think that we would be over that as far as humanity goes, but apparently we're not. And it's important to recognize that we are not, but not to be afraid of it like, oh my God, we have to do something about it. We have to do something about it, all right, as individuals. We need to respect our individuality so much so that each of us are very strong individuals and we will not be overtaken by one person. Every person speaks for themselves, speaks up, is respected individually. Not one, everyone. That's our job. In this country, that's our job, is to learn to be like that, to be respectful of our own self, our family, but not just your own family, of families that don't look like our families, that don't think like our families, and understand that there are people who completely don't want to be around us, whoever us is, but don't make it into us and them. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to speak up and to speak out. Have faith and trust in yourself that you're going to do your very best to not promote hate. We are practicing spirituality, us that's talking and listening today. We want to promote spiritual growth by being an empowered person, which means do not become the thing that we disdain, which is fear-mongering. A person who is aware of themselves as a spiritual person has a duty to practice it. And making other people afraid is not practicing spirituality. being strong enough where others just don't even bother with coming around you. If they're fear mongering and they know that they don't have a chance in hell to be able to change you, they'll walk away. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We don't have to be afraid of being overtaken, because then we won't become all that we can become. But if we dive into our own individuality, we won't become one line of thinking, one line of being. We will become a puzzle made up of hundreds of thousands of pieces, and we will all fit together very gloriously. And we can, like a puzzle, you can shake us all apart and put us back together again as individuals, because we're willing to change. We're willing to grow. Individuality leaves room to grow. Where there isn't the respect for individuality, there is this enmeshment that happens to stop growth. New ideas are not welcome here. Creativity is not welcome here. This happens in some political realms, in some religious realms. Be careful. We don't have to be afraid of that as individuals. We don't. We have to respect individuality. And then we can't be taken over as individuals or as a group. And it will make us so strong, so empowered, where we flow together, but differently. You see, the ocean is one, right? It's one big ocean. We can call it all different kinds of names because it's over there and it's over there, and we say it's all different. There's all these species that are in there. Diversity. But they're one. A forest has all these different animals in it, and it works together. And when in a forest or in the ocean, you start taking some of those species out because you don't like them, because they, for some reason or other, they don't appeal to you, or whatever the reason is, the diversity lessens. And the forest and the ocean changes too, because every member is a part of what the ocean or the forest means. When we start annihilating species because we don't like them, or they don't belong there, or they're delicious for dinner, everything changes and the balance is gone. Diversity is nature's way. Individuality is the human way to create unity. Unity is natural in the universe. Spirituality, true spirituality, is about this. Be the best that you are, because you are needed. You are necessary. You live in this forest, and this forest needs its deers and its rodents and its eagles, and the diversity of the trees and the plants and the flowers, and the diversity of the humans that live there too. Diversity is unity, and it's necessary in all walks of life. It's our destiny to become enlightened as an individual. And enlightenment, apparently, we all begin to think the same way. But don't think that is what I've been talking to you about. To think in the same way and that way, we don't really know what that means. You know that old saying, you only know what you know? Well, we don't know enlightenment yet. But be curious about it. Be curious about it. And every day help yourself to become more enlightened about what love really means in practice. So when we do the word of the month, we have a virtue and we have a saboteur. And the reason is because everything is made up of two sides. So this month we had unity and enmeshment. You see the difference? And so things that are in the enmeshment side will take away from the things that promote the virtue of unity. Unity needs individuals. Enmeshment does not tolerate individuals. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional about everything today, but I just kind of felt it. This time, this coming up week is so important that we respect and love one another, that we be the best version of ourselves so that we can promote peace, peace, peace as individuals, so that we're part of the puzzle. We're part of the United States. We're not just America. We live on the continent of America. We're only part of North America. There's North America, Central America, South America. We are not the only Americans. We are citizens of the USA and the continent of America. Important for us to know. We seem to leave everybody else out when we say we're Americans. We're actually North Americans. In the Latin community, that's something that is talked about. So I say this to you so that you practice the virtue and become very aware of the saboteur. There are many saboteurs of the word unity. It's just that this month it was enmeshment. And the word for the month of November, the virtue, is gratitude. It's always gratitude in November. And I do that to take advantage of everybody practicing gratitude or talking about it anyway. Thanksgiving, right? So I put it in there because we already have some momentum going. And I always feel like, let's catch that wave and run with it, you know? Why not? It's a virtue. And the saboteur is unseen. So again, you might say, I don't understand gratitude and unseen. I don't see the connection. That's all right. Ponder on it, practice on it, feel it. That's why we call it the word of the month for meditation purposes. It's to help us to intuit, to recognize that there are many saboteurs to the word gratitude. But for right now, we're looking at the one saboteur of the word unseen as the saboteur of gratitude. Just remember, sometimes a person can feel unseen and they're not going to be grateful about it. Sometimes a person can feel unseen and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Okay. But sometimes it's like, and sometimes it's this. So I say that to you so that you understand what I'm trying to say when I'm talking about the saboteur. It's something that can eat away at a virtuous quality that you want to grow inside of yourself. Virtuous quality is not weak and wimpy. It's your inner strength. The virtue is your inner strength because it takes a lot of strength to be virtuous. So we're just these works in progress, of course, right? And the saboteurs are like termites. They can eat the house down. So if we practice the virtues, that danger of the termites being present won't happen. So remember to pray for peace this weekend and over this whole next week. Don't be afraid. Pray for it. Send it out there. Be the light. Be who you are. Vote with your heart, the conscience and the intelligence of your heart, and be at peace with it. And let us be at peace with how everyone does that too. So we do have meditation afterwards, if you want to stay. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And peace, peace, peace to all of you. And let's do 3 ohms together. Om. 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 Thank you for being here. Peace be with you. Namaste. And we'll be back in 5 minutes, for meditation. Bye.